God, there is literally nothing on TV today.
It doesn't know that the amount of FP you get back is based on your max FP.
What? No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. It's literally just a flat 20 FP every time. I guess FP restoration buffs can help it out, but no, max FP by itself doesn't have anything to do with it. If you compare yourself absorbing a ring on level 1 versus 15, you can see the effect restoring, like, significantly less by comparison. Yeah, this shit's kinda hard sometimes, huh? You know what helps me unwind after a strenuous week of work? The slow realization that I'm gonna have to do it again because it took me this long to realize I f***ed it up. We learned accepting the choice of fighting at full strength was the only option that takes the consequences of the deal and pushes them into view of your whole team, making it objectively the worst option in any context not involving solo runs. We learned the resistance to ailments option is also so inconceivably cracked beyond all exaggeration because it's the only option that allows additional resistance to Libra's main means of damage and deepens the fuel tank for any madness shenanigans you feel like returning to the sender. But what about the ones in between? What about the ones that weren't even mentioned? Well, this is actually where it gets a little awkward, because not only do some of the deals repeat when he's encountered in the field, but their effects might be slightly different, they might benefit or harm you way more depending on when you encounter Libra, and the consequences of some deals just aren't even there at all if he decides to curse you when appearing on the map. It didn't take me long to figure out this was going to be a very awkward edit if I just ranked them all in different contexts, so yeah, this isn't a ranking video. I'm just going to explain all of the deals individually and what they do and whether or not I think they're worth it. You're gonna hear a lot of repeat lines in this one because, if I'm being honest, my opinion on these haven't really changed all that much, but there's also a bunch of new shit that's been added in because the old video is, well, it's gone now, so that's what I'm doing. I have the feeling if I make too many little mistakes and too many videos in a row, I'm gonna have to start signing some of y'all's YouTube checks for you, and I just don't have the energy for that. Fight at full strength. Fuck you. Full strength my full balls, bitch. Here's what you get out of this. 25% more HP. Pretty huge. If you're playing Guardian or Raider, it'll spike that shit by like an extra 500. Like, it's money. You also get a 10% attack power boost. Both of these effects last for 60 seconds. Now, here's what Libra gets. Libra gets a free fast pass directly to his meditation buff, the thing you tried to prevent by smacking sigils and whatnot, in addition to a 10% damage negation bonus for 100 seconds. So where's the buff then? What's 10% more damage gonna do in this situation? Because if my teammates also have to deal with that damage negation buff, then all I've done is make shit harder for people. Is that supposed to be what you're giving me? A free throw button? If I hate the shit out of my Guardian because he only used his ult to revive the other player, is this my chance to just tell him to get bent behind the gas station and fuck his ass over? Why is this the only option Libra gives you that drags the entire team into your own bullshit? Any other negative consequence on any other trade would target you directly and no one else. But because this is the only option that buffs Libra, the whole team has to deal with something they didn't even get a chance to prevent. And that's really fucking annoying when you're the one who picked it thinking it would do something useful. Power of a Demon. This one is just weird as shit. The power of a demon will occasionally offer you help in the form of a numerous selection of functions that bear resemblance to the boss attacks itself. It has in its arsenal a triple tap shotgun of madness pellets, a single stream of bullets with a high tracking value that deals bitch baby damage but usually doesn't ever miss, and a supportive attack power boost if the eye spawns and you might be too far away from the boss. It may also choose to give you the attack boost because it feels like it, even if you're praying for some extra help with proccing the status, and you are within a comfortable enough range to start coloring the eyes on his neck with a Sharpie. The attack power boost isn't bad. From what I can tell at a glance here, it's around 10%, and it can stack with the 5% attack bonus given to you by picking up one of Libra's many gallstones clumsily left on the floor. But once the eye returns like it's scheduled to every 10 seconds, the attack power boost is just gonna get taken away again. The madness pellets it fires can be helpful for maintaining status buildup, but the damage it does compared to the amount of madness buildup it gives you is so lopsided against you that I had to rewind my own footage multiple times just to verify that there was actually some kind of bullet exiting the cat asshole above my head and connecting with the boss. It can also pre-fire at the boss before his hitbox is technically active, while still giving you madness buildup at the very start of the fight. So it's just like, here you go, have some free status. Go to hell! One of the writers must have really been given some extra compensation to make this one sound as interesting as possible, because this was the first option I ever selected, and the speed at which I made my decision could have been described as blindingly unemployed. This also works against any madness builds you might be leaning on specifically for the purpose of fighting the boss, since it's constantly adding to your build-up and increasing the likelihood of the proc taking you by surprise unless you have a way to deal with it. And I'm not taking that many precautions over a floating asshole that occasionally deals a basic R1's worth of damage. Now, if you have a keen ear for the finer details, you'll notice the preceding paragraph has not changed. That is because my stance on this has also not changed. If you're willing to take up for it because it's madness related, and quite frankly no other reason, then you know what, feel free to. But I have never seen this eye proc madness on the boss a single time in solo runs or with a 3-stack. I have literally never seen it happen. And whenever somebody asks me, I'm still gonna tell them not to get it. So that's just where I'm at on this, okay? I'm sorry. Hold death at bay. If you're on a solo run, this is one of the only options presented to players that is provably worse, as in with evidence, than an item you can just buy from the final merchant. Do you like not getting scammed out of 20% of your max HP? Throw down 10,000 of those runes you weren't going to use anyways on that Winding Grace and just have an actual revive on standby, instead of a slightly shittier Crimson Bubble tier. And that's not a joke, by the way. No exaggeration here. It has the same drawback that made me loathe using the Crimson Bubble tier in the first place, which is that getting hit for more than 20% of your health at any given time just bypasses the effect like it never existed and kill you anyways. And that happens a fuckload of a lot since you're constantly in danger of getting zapped by an unlucky madness proc. Even if I was on a tankier character, I don't think I would ever take this option unless I was absolutely 100% confident that I could ensure the effect plays to my benefit no matter what, which is almost never, unless I'm playing Raider and I'm literally in the middle of using my ability. The devil himself has given you a blank check and you choose to spend it on an effect you could have bought from the fucking merchant not even 2 minutes ago. Eventual greatness. If your teammates are willing to protect your malnourished ass for the next 2 minutes, this might actually turn out to be a good investment. The value of this trade is wholly determined by when you find him. If he offers this to you as a boss, worst decision you could possibly make. Like right up there with plugging your family's Christmas fund into crypto. If you find him on day 1 and he offers this, you should be ignoring pretty much anything else he has available. Like it is actually that good. Maybe the only exception would be the powerful weapon option if you're level 3 or lower, because your character doesn't have the required levels to make the trade, and instead of refusing you, he just doesn't enact the penalty. He just gives you a free purple. Characters with low survivability like Revenant or Recluse can mitigate some of the frustration that comes with the stat penalty, but that doesn't change the fact that whoever picks this just becomes a problem for a couple minutes. The only way I can see this choice actually giving the team some comeuppance would be if the player selecting this option also had a couple passives that made them less likely to be targeted. Because the only way this trade could ever be viable is if the boss just dead ass forgets you're a threat. The Recluse can deal with the penalty a little bit better since her ability allows her to restore a small amount of FP, but that also begs the question of why you need the subsequent buff, because, well, you can just restore your FP. So like, what the fuck? Day 1, on the other hand, is mostly a breeze to get through as long as you aren't just making any like stupid decisions or anything. Just wait until the last possible moment, then get the deal from Libra so you're weakened for as little time as possible, and then invade a couple camps, kill a worm face or some shit, I don't know. Day 1's easy as fuck. I want runes. So this is another reason I wanted to stave off some of the deals for later on, because this is effectively a unique talisman you trade with Libra to obtain. And I just felt like that would have worked better for a talisman ranking in the future that I am working on. There are only 62, there aren't any +1s or +2s in Nightreign, so I feel like ranking them all would be pretty straightforward. But this second iteration is about giving the people what they want, and making sure I don't fuck bomb the research in the process. So, 10,000 runes. You trade 10,000 runes for a nice, tangible reminder that you could be playing a better fucking game. Wonder how many people are gonna get mad at that. Anyways, if you're going after this talisman, it should be mostly because of the item discovery. 20% more runes also feels kind of pointless. If you're good enough at route planning, you should be factoring in what's gonna give you the most runes at any given point. Like, I don't know, doing an Everjail at level 1 is gonna be a little painful, sure, but you just muscle through that shit with the power of friendship and bam, level 5 with a couple minutes to spare. Like, gathering runes just doesn't feel that hard in the game, especially if you're on a shifting earth and you know exactly what kind of enemies to expect and what they're weak to and all that. Don't fight bellbearing. I don't know, man. This is all advice you've heard before. I feel like hitting level 15 happens by accident half the time. It's like a jump scare. Like, I'll just glance up near the top left and bam! Fuck. When did that happen? Also, the 10 HP you lose per second is a flat value, so if you're on a character with a low health pool like Revenant, Duchess, Iron Eye, any of the squishies, then managing the penalty might require a bit more consistent attention to what your HP looks like at any given time. This is going to lead me into what I can only describe as a hilariously long-winded explanation of how item discovery actually works and why you should definitely be considering it. I feel like item discovery might be the game's most obfuscated stat bonus regarding what it doesn't practice and where it's supposed to be coming in handy. So I'm just going to break down how this works, starting with its least affected variable and then ending at its most affected. Item discovery has the smallest effect on boss and encampment boss rewards. Trying to farm purples by killing bosses with high item discovery, it's just not going to help you. It's not that item discovery doesn't influence the variable, it's just that you're going to open way more chests and loot more bodies than you ever kill bosses, giving the item discovery more chances to work its magic in those instances. Generic loot locations and chests and whatnot are going to give you way more value. There's a lot more math that goes into this, but if you can manage at least, I'd say like 100 item discovery in total and then start looting all the chests, you will be finding at least 1 purple per encampment with reasonable consistency. But now we have what I would argue is the single most important detail about item discovery. Once you start mowing down a lot of the same enemy, you'll start noticing they have a small chance of dropping the weapon they're holding as loot. The glintstone miners can drop their pickaxes, crucible knights have a chance of dropping their 3 crucible related armaments, long haft axes, short bows, and iron cleavers can all be dropped by the misbegotten that use them, basic soldiers have a chance of dropping a Lordsorn straight sword, and on some occasions they can drop the brass shield. Mowing down jellyfish have a slight chance of giving you the jellyfish shield, which, due to how Contagious Fury doesn't require holding the shield in your hand to receive the buff, could very well be one of the best purples in the game. Basically, just about every enemy in the game has an incredibly slight chance to drop whatever weapon they're attacking you with. If you're looking for a very specific weapon from a very specific enemy, cranking your item discovery is the way to dial that in. If you have a relic effect that improves digger sorceries, for instance, you can use item discovery to increase the likelihood of glintstone diggers in caves dropping their stabs. The only downside with this stat is that you need a shitload of it to actually notice its effects. I'll keep the explanation brief here, and if I see visible interest in the math in the future, I can always just follow it up in another video. But due to how a standard enemy's item lot works, 60 item discovery basically just boils down to a 3% increased chance for a single item. Since we can see here that a Crucible Knight wielding Siluria's Tree has a 2.5 chance to drop that weapon, wearing the symbol of avarice turns that up to 5.5. Expand my intellect and have deep faith. I can't even believe there's enough information to make at least a half-educated conclusion on what could be considered the best and worst of these 5, but I'm really glad I decided to do a take 2 on this because the amount of depth these next 5 exchanges have to them could offer enough mechanical knowledge for each of them to have their own dedicated video. I'm not gonna fucking do that, so if someone else wants to pick that shit up and go ahead, I'll go as in-depth as I feel like I should before the subject overstays its welcome, because this video has a topic, and we honestly still have like 9 other deals to get through. I made the claim on the first iteration of this video that you can kinda fuck yourself over if you don't have basic knowledge of what your character scales with, and I will now heighten this statement's intensity by what I deem is an appropriate amount to make it more accurate. You can very easily fuck your build doggy style through the basement and down the back of the washing machine if you don't know exactly what you're doing. I have never issued an alert more urgent than this. Alright, so let's just start with these 2. Expanding your magic dong as Duchess or Recluse might sound like a good idea because of their scalings, but running a sorcerer build straight into Libra's front door is actually not recommended because he'll just ignore 20% of that shit. I guess a magic build that's properly torqued with all the right relics and a good staff with a good spell can still blast through it, but Recluses and Revenants here are a little more favored. If you choose an option that's caster-centric, Libra will take your stats and basically just blend them up and make a nice smoothie out of them them and reallocate them towards the stat you've chosen. If you pick up intelligence or faith, you might notice a slight dip in max HP as your stats are being reallocated, but you'll probably have more FP than what you started with, and one trip to the inventory, and oh shit, look at that! All the appropriate catalysts have like 30 to 40 higher scaling now. Choosing strength or dex gives you a similar result, just with bonk sticks, lawnmowers, cheese graters, pain machinations of the physical variety. But here's where the surprise mechanics start kicking in, because these reallocations affect some characters way more significantly than others. Expanding your intellect with Duchess pretty much gives you what you'd expect. Slight dip in HP and like 5 more max FP, but your staves have significantly higher scaling than they did before. Recluse gets her staves boosted by this as well, obviously, but she actually suffers a mild loss to FP and stamina. And going dex with Duchess shaves off half her FP, so there goes any hopes of spamming the unique skill on the Black Knife. Be in touch with the arcane. If anyone can think of a better placement for these, you're welcome to make your own goddamn video that I can react to later. And by react, I mean get up and go to the bathroom and leave the video playing. Literally and figuratively shitting on your opinion in the process. Nightreign actually gives you a few main hand weapon options for arcane-centric builds like the Morgoth's Curse Sword, Moglin Spear, and the Marae and Regalia swords. This occurs way more frequently than I thought. Nightrein's weapon scalings are vastly different from its parent game. Scalings, with a few notable exceptions, seem to be separated by weapon category rather than the weapon itself. Most daggers will have an S scaling in dex and nothing else. All greatswords have a split between strength and dex, with a little bit of help somewhere in a third stat. But even the Dark Moon and Golden Order greatswords have a clear priority in strength, with dex and some other third stat as a secondary. I'm serious, this happens way more than you think. Like, obviously scalings have to be simplified to make the faster pace of the game more streamlined and more comfortable, but seriously, like, go to the sparring range and just scroll through all the weapon scalings. The amount of shit that's just completely changed from the base game is like, it's insane. Additionally, something else I learned by complete accident while recapturing some of the footage for the second take here, Frostbite works with arcane. Like it just works now. So don't go packing a nice build thinking this ain't for you, because it absolutely is. You can try this with Duchess and Executor in the sparring range if you don't believe me. Just give them both a staff with Ice Crag on it and measure results. It took me 4 casts as Duchess to proc a status, and the Executor obviously wasn't dealing as much upfront damage on account of being uneducated as hell, but he deadass procced that shit like twice as fast, and watching an Executor be this insane with a staff, it's kind of just funny. This option is also like terrifyingly good for Iron Eyes for some reason, because it'll give him a pretty generous boost to all 3 of his core stats, as well as torquing the shit out of your arcane scaling. Your main hand weapons are gonna do as much damage as slapping a bitch with a wet ShamWow, but I think being able to proc a status from the next zip code over sounds like a pretty nifty trade-off. I noticed it's a good trade for the Executor too, if only because being in touch with arcane also spikes your FP bar up into the altitudes of commercial airliners, but he already has an S scaling in arcane anyways, so I don't really know what you could possibly improve on regarding status buildup or anything, so I wouldn't expect much. Have great strength and dexterity. Holy fuck, do not put this shit on your Guardian. You are going to just piss yourself off. Deadass just tanks all 3 of your core stats. By like a frightening amount too. Like, say goodbye to 20% of your HP, I guess. At level 15, I got my ass knocked down from 1340 to 1080, not including any HP boosting passives or talismans you have on. I'm not really even that mad about the HP loss, but why did you take away 30 of my stamina? Halberds also have Bs and Cs for strength and dex. It's very evenly split, so no matter which of the 2 options you're presented with, you'll never see weapon strength increase any more than like 20. This isn't some McAfee quick scan you're running. This shit is a full-ass system wipe. Yet another reminder of how Guardian mains across space and time got fleeced and shafted out of what could have been an S-tier character because Raider ran his ship aground and got stranded at the hold, and instead of Shanghaiing the entire troop into being his pirate crew, he just decided this is where he lives now. So better get to holding that shield up, Scrooge McFuck. Leveling dexterity gives you a wider pool of slash-based weaponry and attacks, such as claws, curved swords, katanas, and curved greatswords, to name a few. Most strength weapons tend to fall in either 2 categories, standard and strike, and while I tend to prefer strike damage since it's more multi-purpose in a general setting, Libra has a particular disliking for being scratched in certain places, leaving him with a negative 10% damage damage negation against slash damage. Standard, strike, and pierce damage all clock in at a dull, uninspiring 0. Aside from this incredibly minor and mostly insignificant discrepancy, going for either of these will give you the exact same effect, and it's ultimately going to come down to what your character scales the best with and or what weapon you have equipped. I would exercise a bit of caution here and make sure you aren't dependent on multiple stats before choosing any of these, but with the amount of main hand armaments that have a clear preference towards strength, dexterity, or both, these seem like the two best stat-related options pretty much no matter what. And the pretty much there excludes exactly 2 situations where you either got stuck with the Cypherpada or you're sticking it out through the whole run with the Revenant's starting weapon. At level 15, without any talismans, buffs, or extenuatory help, each of these 5 have very specific stat benchmarks it will give to your character. These are all pretty simple and straightforward, so I'll just flash these up to the screen. But these are base stats at level 15. Like I said, no relics, talismans, any bullshit. This is just everything at base. I desire a flask. It's getting an extra flask for a 10% max HP decrease. It's pretty straightforward. Raiders and Guardians will feel the hit a bit more than a Recluse, for instance, because the HP debuff is percentage-based, but that shouldn't really matter because tank characters are sort of built to have the fortitude to trade with whoever the hell they want and come out of it relatively unharmed. This is another one that demands a bit of prior knowledge about your own build. If you were just rocketing through buffs and options the whole way, picking anything that looked pretty like your 60-year-old mom thumbs through Christmas catalogs, then you probably won't know whether or not what you have will work with this option. But if you know for a fact you have a flask restoration buff or 2 just chilling out somewhere in your list of passives, taking this option might actually be a massive benefit, even with the 10% HP loss. And don't worry about dedicating too much brain RAM to that decision, because Libra absolutely gives you enough time to just go into your special effects page and just look through it and see if you have it. Those tiny fire orbs encircling the scale sigil, yeah, those disappear like every 6 seconds or so in a clockwise direction, so you know exactly how much time you have before the actual fight begins. If you're still unsure, then, what the fuck do I even say at that point? You've probably already wasted enough time to trigger the boss anyways, so who cares? But I think the easiest way to think about it is like this. How much do you value churches when you're exploring Limveld? What level of priority do you put them under? If a teammate pings a rise structure and you think going for the extra flask right beside it is more important, well then you should probably choose the flask. Gain many levels. This option is a huge winner if the build you stumbled upon during the run is really good at covering your ass and keeping you alive, but a hyper-aware golem sniped your nuts off when you were trying to escape the rain and you couldn't get your runes back. It's ultimately going to come down to whether or not your specific lineup of buffs facilitate this option, basically the same with the flask. This is the ultimate memory check for how much you've been paying attention and how well you know your teammates. If your damage falls somewhere between old man sneezing and stepping in dog shit, but you know your flask heals a fuck ton of HP, or you're playing Raider and you have a whole ass ability that just lets you not take damage, an extra 3 levels can easily work more for you than it does against you. If all you could find was whites and blues and like 1 purple that makes tacos 13% tastier, but you noticed earlier someone you're queuing with has that relic effect that heals the team whenever they use a flask, then who gives a shit if your ass is level 12? Make it not 12 and let your unwillingly generous teammate pick up the slack. It can really be worth it, and it can even save your run, but you have to be really aware of what your teammates' builds are and what they can do, as well as just a general faith in your teammates. And if you're solo queuing and not in a Discord VC with somebody, then you don't even need to tell me your situation. I understand completely. I desire a powerful weapon. What makes this one so interesting is the weapon pool from which he draws. The pool comprises 8 weapons, 3 of which are madness weapons, which, if given, could single-handedly reverse the momentum of a bad run. These weapons are Vite's War Spear, the Frenzied Flame Seal, and the Fingerprint Stone Shield. The remaining 5, however, are holy weapons: the Black Knife, Ordovis Greatsword, Halo Scythe, Erdtree Bow, and the Michelin Nightsword. The reason these weapons are key against Libra is because he takes 35% more damage from all holy sources. There really isn't a fail condition with this one, aside from just losing 2 levels, and going from 15 to 13 isn't like a huge deal. I mean, it'll suck, but we're talking about trading this for what basically ends up being either 35% more damage or the capacity to exploit the boss's main weakness. Taking this deal is all about knowing your limits. If you feel like you have enough confidence to survive at level 10 or something, then feel free to take it. Even if it's not a weapon you can use, scalings are still very streamlined in Nightreign, so even if no one on your team has the alternate moveset of the dropped weapon, they still might be able to use it, and probably should unless they have a gold weapon or something that's just objectively better. Run into this deal during a field encounter, and the stipulations are slightly different, but the weapon pool he draws from is the same, and if you're lucky enough to have him offer this at the very beginning of a run, if you're level 3 or below, then, well, there's no levels to deduct from your character, so he just won't do it. He'll give you a free purple, and he won't do shit to you. There really is no losing side of the coin here. You will get a weapon he has a hard time fighting against no matter what. I think the only way this option could fuck you would be if you got the Erdtree bow or the Black Knife as like the Raider or something, because those two weapons and the Halo Scythe have scalings clearly weighted towards dex. But most of the others have just decent scalings across the board. Surprisingly, the Faith scalings on all these armaments they're not like ass-wipingly bad or anything. They're pretty bad. They suck balls. So if you're Revenant, don't go choosing this option thinking you'll carry the whole fight, because the two highest Faith scaling weapons are the Mikolan Knight's Sword and Ordovis Greatsword, both only capable of 30 Faith scaling, which is, like, I'm sorry, man, like, that shit is pathetic. Resistance to ailments. Apparently this is a massive plot twist for some people, and I always enjoy explaining it to someone who's never really thought that much about it, because they always hit me with the same, wait a minute, no shit kind of response after hearing the reason. So Libra's main weakness is not only the one status you gradually build on yourself when using certain spells, but it just so happens to be the very same status effect he uses against the team. So the fact that a buff like this is even in Libra's circulation to begin with is a display of remarkable confidence that earns both my respect and concern. Like, he's literally telling you to fuck around and find out, but the negative effect matters so little that it feels more like fuck around with a low to moderate risk. If I'm a caster build using frenzy spells, one of the last things I would ever be concerned about is whether or not I'm running out of breath in between salvos. And even then, a 10% stamina decrease is easily counterbalanced by a Viridian Talisman or a max stamina buff you get from clearing an encampment. Or in the best case scenario, you snatched up a stamina regen buff during one of the night bosses, making this negative effect no more intimidating than the treadmill you'll need to start using for that stamina to pick back up. However, there is a double secret hidden bonus third reason why this choice is almost always one you should shoot for, which has to do with the amount of resistance you're given before the fight, which is 150. Think about how much extra fuel that is for the frenzy tank. That's like 2.5 charged flame of frenzies you just gave yourself, or like 8 frenzied bursts, or like 1 extra frenzy flame threat. Fuck, whatever. I didn't do the math beforehand. Greetings. Math Rusty here. 150 madness resistance gives you exactly 5 charged frenzied bursts, not including the natural decay of the status over time. So if this helps you quantify how much this is, then there you go. Salutations! Basic comprehension Rusty here. You may have noticed that yellow bar in the center of your screen has grown massively in size upon taking this buff. And a good way I like to tell how much madness casting I can get away with is by seeing how close that bar is to being completely filled. I just know 150 is a hell of a lot, and you should absolutely invest in it every single time you see it. I think this will sometimes tie with the second place entry, and in rare instances, if you're a gambling man, the extra weapon he gives you might just be the exact one you need. But that only has a 12.5% chance of happening, versus the 100% chance of assured spank ass you'll be delivering to Libra's front porch before he can even answer the fucking door.